home, bringing the bread home. And I was in control of their lives, getting them up in the morning, sending them off to school, playing with them, taking them places, bouncing them on my knee. But when this happened, my children were gone. They weren't in the house. They were young adults. They were making their own decisions. I was not in their lives daily like before. I was not in control. I'm really not in control now, but I still want to be. I mean, there's a lot at stake here. My son is facing a lot of jail time, and it's very expensive. Our lives are hanging in the balance. My son's life is hanging in the balance. My whole family's lives are hanging in the balance over this situation. There's a lot more detail that I could get into and tell you, but we don't have time this morning. All I can say is there's a lot hanging in the balance here. And yet, in the midst of all this chaos and hurt and pain, confusion, God is telling me to trust Him. He's telling me that He's in control of this. And He wants me to release this and surrender complete control to Him. He wants me to lay it down. This is not what I thought would happen. I raised up this baby boy, changing his diapers, watching him catch his first fish, watching him learn how to play drums, playing in a youth band. Up to a young adult, this is not what I raised him to do. To languish behind bars, unable to see sunlight, unable to see the stars and the moon, feel the night breeze on his face, unable to touch or be hugged by the ones he loves, to forego the bright future I'd hoped he would have. So, what are you struggling with? What is there in your life that you're not putting on the altar? What are you not letting go of? Is it a divorce or separation? Maybe an estranged friend or family member? Maybe health issues? The death of someone close to you? Have you recently lost your job, or maybe you haven't had a job for a really long time? Are you harboring resentment against somebody? Is there somebody in your life that you need to forgive? Is there cheating or lying going on in your life? Addiction to drugs, sex, or food? Maybe you're just hiding something that needs to come out. Maybe it's your life that needs to be laid down. Maybe you need to surrender to Jesus and begin to find out who He really is. I can tell you that He's the living water, the giver of life. Jesus Himself said He is the way, the truth, and the life, and that no one comes to the Father but by Him. And if you don't know Him personally, if you don't know Him intimately, maybe you will start taking that journey with Him today. So talk with the guys at your table and be real. Keep the junk out in the parking lot.
What do you do with that? I mean, how would you respond in that situation if that was your son? And you didn't know what the future held. what the outcome of that is going to be like. Guys, that's what we're doing here. See, this is what community is about. This is God wanting to reach a relationship with us, and this is how He does it. Okay? It's with one another. All right? We see God in one another. We represent God in one another. Christ works through us in this bond of friendship and brotherhood. Okay? So guys, look at these questions here. And this is a time to build that relationship. This is a time to see where you're at. It's time to be honest. You know what they say, keep that junk out in the parking lot. We don't have time to wear these masks. We don't have time to just, go to these surface levels, okay? We want real change in our lives. This is where it starts. So here are the questions. What are you not letting go of or laying down? What do you need to release control of? Is it an addiction? Is it anger? Is it a relationship? Is it time? Is it money? What is it for you? Sawyer's is a very extreme deal in his life. But we each have something in our life, and it may be there, and it may not. But it's something that we need to deal with. We're all carrying something. You need to admit it. You need to name it, and you need to pray about it. Okay, I was an angry guy when I grew up. All right? And I would go home, and I would yell at my kids, and I would yell at my wife. The name of that is called abuse. It's verbal abuse. So guys, let's be real. Let's name what we're doing, and let's pray about it, okay? Question 2. Now that you've identified, what's your next step or steps in getting through this? Speak it out. Say what it is. Have a plan. Pray about it. And we need to walk out of here and do it. 1, 2, 3, go. Shot of his story. There's a lot more behind what he shared with you. There's a lot more going on right now in his life, and there are things outside of right now, this moment and second right now, that are unknown because they're in the future. And those are the things that probably make it difficult for us to do the things that we do to, as he was saying, lay things on the altar, because it is something in the future, and it is about trusting someone else. And that's kind of a hard thing to do. So it's like, how do we do this? What's that look like? Well, the answer is in here. And let me share one of these, what God says about this in here. And it's in Jeremiah 29, starts at verse 11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. And I, the Lord, will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity." Okay, you hear what he's saying here? He says, I know the plans I have for you. God knows about your life and what's going to happen. God knows what's going to happen in Sawyer's life. He says, I know the plans to prosper you and not to harm you. See, God is a good God. He's not against us. When things come against us, it seems like it, it's either not God, or 2, we have to realize it's in our best interest. Okay? He has hope and a future for us. All right? So we need to be living like that. We need to go to that place and start laying those things down. Look, and this is part of where we do it right here. You have guys here that are willing to walk with you through this. See, this is how God does relationships. It's with each other. All right? Don't leave here without a name and a number. And don't leave here with the number in your pocket, until next week. All right? Make those calls. And if you have a number from somebody and you're waiting for them to call, all right, you don't hear, you make the call. This is a relationship. This is how we do life. And as Christ followers, if we're actually following after Christ, we need to do the things that he did, and this is part of it. It's part of lifting one another up, coming beside each other. You know, these, what you hear with Jack saying and Hank and Joe, these aren't things, oh, you know, something else to do. These are opportunities for us to build relationships. These are the things that we will take into eternity. You know, at our table, it was about time, money, and control. You know, and when we work hard and for the money or all those things, you know, those are great. They can, we discuss, it can be taken away from us. But the things we do with each other, that'll never be taken away. Okay? That will never be taken away. All right. So, and this is it too. For some of you guys, it might just be getting together with somebody and say, can you pray with me to help me want to do this? Whatever that thing is you need to let go of or lay down, it might be as simple as that. We have to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be a big step. It just needs to be a step. See, we need to get God to change our hearts. Okay? And then we go on from there. We have to do this with one another. We cannot do this alone, because doing things alone gets us into these things we're in, right? All right? And then you know what's going to happen? You're going to look back, and you're going to see the relationships that you've built, and you're going to see the friendships that you have, and you're going to realize the freedom that you're walking in. That all happens right here, guys. This is how we do it. This is how we get there. This is how we get close to God. This is how we take the things that are most precious to us and lay them down on that altar and hand it over to God. But we cannot do it alone. Sawyer can't do it alone. He cannot do it without this community. He needs us. We need him, and we need each other. All right?